Hey girl, hey, that's Wabu. All right. Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is January the 25th, 2022. It is day 13 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1031. Today, y'all, we are going to read Genesis 37, 38, and 39. And then we're going to pick up where we left off at in my big toe in chapter 12. Shayla, hey girl, hey, great rising. Anybody get a chance to go listen to any of the ancient Sumerian text yet? The translated ancient Sumerian text. Audrey, shalom, shalom. Listen to it all the way through, Dana. Dana said, "Girl, I started listening as soon as I heard Mars. I had to stop. That's why I said when you first start listening to it, something's gonna be off-putting, especially if you're in the Flat Earther Society, right? Not necessarily the official Flat Earther group, right? Not necessarily the official group, but if you tend to lean more to the flat earth side, like I was leaning toward, well, I ain't gonna say I was like a straight flat earther, right? I was like, I give time to everything else. Let me just finish listening to it, right? But it was enough of the scriptures in there to let me know the Bible has definitely been copied, right? Because it's the newest one, not the Sumerian text was created from it, because the Bible is the newest one, right? So I was like, okay, well, let me listen to it. See, because they have some other information too that I know. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna listen through it. I'm gonna hold off my opinions on some of what it's saying, simply because some of the other things I'm not quite sure about. I can't quite put my finger on it just yet. So I'm like, I'm gonna just go through it. Just go through it. I knew when you said off-putting, you were talking to me. That was 3 seconds on. So I got to make sure I tell y'all some of the things that's going to be in there, especially if you don't look at a lot of stuff like I do. Not saying that you don't, right? But you just got to sometimes just hear the full matter out first. Just hear it out. You got to go all the way through, right? Okay. Audrey was up all night listening to it. Marie, Betwabu, Lavon, blessings. I'm telling you, just go through it. Just hold off and just go through it and listen to it all the way through. Then go through with your Bible and try and line stuff up. And I know she said you should have warned me if I played that with the husband around. He would have cursed you. Oh, he definitely would have. Devon would have been talking about me bad, probably in the group. Me too. He probably would have called my uncle, kick her out the group again. Yeah, I don't think Devon quite ready to listen to it just yet. Just go all the way through it, Dana. Just go all the way through it. Just go all the way through it. Just trust me. Just go all the way through it. We're working through this together. Okay, y'all. Hold on. Audrey said, same here. When I got deployed, the whole Nibiru thing came up, but I put it off. So when it came back up, I had to sit outside and say, what is this? Right, Audrey, I know, right? See, because let me tell you my thoughts about Nibiru. I probably gave you a little bit of it when I first told you about this the other day. So I'm like, okay, because I had seen a lot of videos shenaniganized from other YouTubers. I'm like, man, this is a bunch of crap. I don't see nothing Nazca over here, but I started looking into some other things. And then I went looking to see what NASA was saying. Not that I take the word of NASA as gold, because they got their own, they're at a whole nother level of shenanigans, right? But they also be covering up. But then when they come back and they said, when I saw the things about them on how they say, yeah, we did doctor some videos, this is what it really was, and just different things. I was like, well, okay, let me just go through looking at some more stuff. And then I started thinking about the telescope in the Vatican. That's called, I believe the telescope in the Vatican is called Lucifer, right? It ain't like they just be out there. They just like love looking at the stars and stuff. I mean, they really could. I mean, they could have weather people, somebody there, that's forecasting the weather. We looking for asteroids or whatever, but some of these other little small pieces didn't seem to make too much sense until I started reading the Sumerian tablets. So what are y'all really looking for, my G? Are y'all trying to find the Biru yourself or whatever? Right? Even like this whole, you gotta go look at it. Pull it up. And it's recent in like the last few weeks what they're talking about. And I think I've seen it on the news, because I've seen it on the news while searching it, not actually on my TV, but you can pull up on different news channels where they're talking about this. Well, they're calling it Planet X now, right? They're saying, we're not saying that this is Nibiru, but this is Planet X, because we don't really know what it is, but we're 95% sure that there is something there, that that this is another planet, and this, and I'm like, okay, I'm still looking into all of it. Let me tell you what I did. Once I started going through my whole flat earth phase, and then we got the spherical earth, and then we got the hollow earth, I'm like, is there no end to the conspiracies and all the different theories? I'm like, where in the world do we live? What is out there? Look, I got so mad with the whole situation while I was teaching. When we got to like the science part in the homeschool, I was like, we're gonna skip this for now, because I ain't too sure. I don't want to be teaching y'all no lies about the solar system, and then I don't want to be leaving stuff out. I got a little more studying on this to do, but I'll let y'all learn some basic stuff. This is a cloud, this is a tree. Look, yeah, see, I got all those doing stunts 101. See, I got all of those thoughts in my head. He said NASA is a hoax. People still believe in those CGI pictures, right? So I was like all in there. I'm like, man, forget NASA and all this. So I'm trying to look at everything. I'm trying to look at verifiable information myself. But listen, see, I just found out the other day too that we can also, with clearance, we can launch our own satellites, right? And I'm like, well, that mean I need to learn a few things. I need to learn a few things, so when I put it up there, I'll know exactly what I'm looking at. So now I'm looking into a price, because I found out they said it's not too expensive. They said anybody can put a satellite up in space. I'm like, okay, well, if I can't meditate and go there, if I can't just go out there and see myself, I mean, at this point, while I'm trying to learn how to do this, because I don't know if I'm just dreaming it all up. So I need something tangible before I start teaching this again, or at least, I don't know, I might give them like the little rundown. They didn't already seen little stuff about the solar system and everything. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you know what? I will go as far as to go ahead and get a license to shoot a satellite up here in the sky. How far can we put it up? Right. And so I've been thinking about this. I was like, because I got to get to the bottom of this. Because right now, on the whole like flat earth, round earth, hollow earth, well, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, because I haven't personally been out there. I can't really take the word of, I mean, some things I just can't really take the word of some people, especially if they're known for shenanigans. But it's like, but what if they're partially telling the truth? Like, but we really don't know, right? And I know they be shutting people up, putting gag orders on them, probably because, look, y'all know what's really going on. We down here in the basement doing all of this. The world don't need to know this is how we make our money. Like all these, I got a whole conspiracy background going on, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not looking at things in a biased way. So that's why I stand on that Robert Betswabu, Betswabu. Wait, somebody else came in. Dana, I don't know. But man, it's Mom Shalom, Shalom, Gil Shalom, Joey Shalom, Grand Rising. I don't know. So there's other people that have see, okay, so there's a couple different videos that I remember. Now somebody put they launched some kind of craft up in the sky. Y'all may have seen this. Flat Earth Society or flat earthers may have seen it. Somebody launched some type of aerial mechanism straight up into the sky, kind of like a rocket. I want to say it was. Maybe I can find a video and show you. This was when I was going through the whole phase. Okay, is there a firmament? Is there not a firmament? Clearly, I understand there must be a firmament, right? And so I'm like, okay, there's a firmament. So somebody they attached a camera to it. So I'm thinking, I'm watching the video. It was probably like a minute, and they shot it up and went straight up. And while it was recording, you can see it shooting through the air and stuff, and it had sound on it. But when it gets to the highest it can go, it's like it hit the top of a bowl, like a clear bowl or something, and it couldn't go any further. So it was just kind of like spinning on whatever it touched, right? So I'm like, well, clearly there's something there. If it was something that was moving, it would have moved pretty quickly, and that thing would have continued going up. And I expected, if it was something there that moved, I would expect, unless it died, either the camera gonna black out or the view was going to change, and it's going to look like space, or what we'd seen space to look like, or the sky at night, right? I don't know. So I don't know. I'm still looking into all that. Yeah, you remember the video, Audrey? So I'm still trying to go through all this stuff, but a lot of things that I'm reading in some of the other books that he's translated, some of the other different tablets in, I'm looking at some of the things that our government is doing, right? So like I said, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying level headed. Okay, this seems like complete garbage to me right here, but I ain't gonna count it out just yet, because at one point I didn't think Jesus was garbage. And that still sound like blasphemy kind of coming out of my mouth, even to me. But y'all get what I'm saying, right? So I can't really just chuck everything until I have more pieces of this puzzle. And the pieces that I found so far have been so intriguing that I'm not counting out anything at this point. I'm just being a good researcher, bringing all my pieces of information. Yeah, that seems crazy, but we keep that over in the crazy bucket for now until we get some more sane pieces of information based on how we grew up and how we were taught. So also now I got to bring in the pieces of information, even about the crop circles and all these different things, and the pyramids. Well, how did the pyramids really get built, my G? Yeah, okay. Some people say, well, we did it. We were smarter back then. I said, okay, but I'm still looking for different types of proof for verifying a lot of these things. So but what I've read in the translated Sumerian text is interesting enough not to throw it all away at this point. At this point, based on the information that I have now. So I'm like, okay, I got to tell them about it, because maybe they got more pieces of information that I got right now. So I'm just like, y'all help us out. Y'all go listen to this. And based on y'all life experience, what y'all done seen, maybe y'all done been into some secret type meetings or something that I'm not aware of. Maybe if it ain't gonna get you killed, share a little bit with us so we can put these pieces of this puzzle together. So that's where I'm at right now. So but man, it's a lot of it's a lot of other stuff. It's other pieces that I got sitting out, and I got friends that travel all over the world. So I ask them questions about different things. So I'm like, okay, well that's pretty interesting. Okay. So all of these things I'm gathering and putting together and trying to see. Now I know that well, based on when I looked at Dr. Stephen Greer, some of his work, some of the people that they interviewed that the government had gotten hold of, so to speak, when they were talking about they were abducted by aliens, some of them actually came out and said that yeah, that was a lie. The government paid us to say that. So I'm taking all of that information in. So I'm like, okay, half, if not all of these people that said that they've been abducted, were lying. Clearly, I got proof of that. But there are some that will, and I don't know if they're still lying. So all, like I said, all this information, I'm just pulling all of it together, just trying to see exactly who telling the truth and who not telling the truth. There's going to have to be a common thread going through here somewhere, right? So I'm not just looking at what people say, but like I said, I'm looking at what our government is doing, what the Vatican is doing, that they make public that they're doing, right? And there's some things that they don't even make public. And I also look at CERN. Think about some of the things CERN be doing. Like you're building a how you pronounce it? Hydrocollider. I think I said that wrong. But y'all know that big machine that they have built and they've been testing to bring the spiritual realm into the natural realm. And then they had like this whole ceremony in Switzerland to conjure up Satan, like all of this stuff. I'm thinking about all of these pieces of the puzzle with some of the things that have been available to us. I'm like, something is going on. We might not be 100% spot on, but there's something that's going on that's being hidden from us. And they're telling us it's something else when it's really not, So I know that much. I may not be, like I said, I may not be 100% spot on, but I do know enough that there is another realm other than what we can see because I've interacted with it. Most of us here have interacted in one form of another with another realm, right? That we can't see. So, right. So I saw something. I thought about the Van Allen belt, right? I was doing stunts 101. CERN be trying to blow a hole in the Van Allen belt. Nothing can get through it. Right. So I also, now I'm still looking into this research over here, but that was my thought. I'm like, okay, they got all this stuff. Ain't nothing getting through that Van Allen radiation belt, right? So those are my thoughts. So I was like, can't nobody get outside of our atmosphere. But I saw something where they were, like I said, I'm still looking into it. I'm not saying he 100% correct because I'm still looking at some of the information. They were going into what the astronauts actually wear and some of the pictures that they put out where they say NASA is hoaxing everybody and stuff. But then they brought out like, I'm gonna share. I gotta find it. I saw it the other day. I forgot the name of the video. I got it tagged. Hold on. I'm gonna show y'all because I'm looking into it. And but they showed something else. I was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. Well, that kind of makes sense just a little bit. Maybe I need to look at it a little bit more, at least give a little more ear to it. Hold on, let me see. Make myself a note. And that was the guy that I shared on one of the videos. Billy Carson, right? So it was him. He did a video. I think it was almost an hour long. Maybe I got to figure out which one it was because I was going through a lot of his stuff. At first, I thought, okay, this guy is kind of like just like a YouTuber or whatever. But then I really started looking into Billy Carson. I'm like, yo, dude went to MIT. He is literally like a neurologist, right? A neuroscientist, neurologist. But anyway, he got his certifications from MIT, black guy, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let me listen to what you got to say on some of these things. And he traveled the world. He'd been around the world a couple of times and he got pictures and stuff to prove it. So I was like, okay, well, you're not just this random YouTuber type guy, So all that stuff. So he did a video on it. He was talking about the Van Allen radiation belt and everything. And he was the one that I actually learned from, that you can actually get a license and put your own satellite up in the sky and kind of verify some of the things that they're bringing out, which seem to be hoaxes to us. He said, but some of these things you can easily go prove. And he said it doesn't really cost a lot to get your own satellite and launch it up into the sky, get approval to launch it up, and you can start taking a look at some of these things. And there's a video that he said that he was going to do. I was like, okay, bro. He started talking something about the different planets, but he also mentioned Mars, right? He mentioned Mars, and so Dane, I'm like you. I'm like, oh, there you go. I just start rolling my eyes. Mind you, I come from a conspiracy theorist background. I'm checking out everything. Oh, that's a hoax. We're gonna debunk this, right? So I come from that background, I'm looking fine detail. Let me slow that down. Wait a minute, hold. If I change the background, can it look like this? I'm just like, yeah, I don't believe that. Who you trying to fool, right? So that's me. So when he started talking, I'm like, there I go. I'm blowing my breath, smacking my lips, rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh, come on, Billy Carson. I was like, you went to MIT, bro. Come on, give me, But he started saying some stuff. I'm like, well, shoot. And he started talking about Van Allen radiation belt. I was like, okay, well, I haven't studied into that part. Let me go look into that. So I haven't gotten to this part yet about the Van Allen radiation belt, because that was my biggest thing. I'm like, y'all, regions ain't been nowhere. Ain't nobody got outside our atmosphere, because ain't nobody getting past that Van Allen radiation belt. Right? You haven't figured that out yet. So, but based on some information from somebody that I now think is credible, I'm gonna hold off on my comments until I check into what he said, because I'd never thought about this. So I'm gonna find this video, I'm gonna share it with y'all, and then I want y'all to look too, just in case y'all might come across some information that I don't, right? Because I'm looking into it, because if something can get past that Van Allen radiation belt, if y'all done figured it out, this should be news. This really should be news, right? And maybe they made it news in a way that we still think they up to shenanigans. But they doing something, my G. Y'all done created a space force. Like, we ain't talking about y'all creating a movie. Y'all certifiably started another branch of the military. And you call yourself the Space Force. On national TV, you got logos and everything. You got people already joining this branch. You're fully operational. I'm like, so why do we need a Space Force? So all these things I'm trying to put together. I know I'm kind of rambling on, but it's like, I don't know, my whole mind and paradigm shift. It's happening right now, So I had to let y'all know about it, because I don't want to get off into la la land somewhere. I need y'all to be looking into this. If y'all got the time, be like, Pam, hold up, wait a minute, girl, you was right. It was all a hoax. I need y'all to throw that information at me, because I might be missing something. I don't want to be missing anything, right? All right, so that's why I bring it up. I'm like, okay, we got to look at this together. So we're gonna read it together in a couple days. Let's go ahead and get started, because we have 22 minutes and I ain't talking about nothing. I'm just wasting time. Okay, but not really. I'm really serious about this. I'm gonna share this video with y'all, and y'all let me know. Start looking into it. But I'm gonna start looking into actually launching a satellite and seeing how much it costs. If y'all want to launch one, y'all can do it too. If not, we'll figure out how to connect the video feed and everything, so we can all look at it together. Okay, y'all. Okay, so it went up right here. Okay, this we're gonna try and do. I'm so serious, y'all. Some of y'all might think I'm joking, but I'm so serious. I'm gonna check into it, and plus, it'd be a pretty friggin' cool science experiment for my kids, right? If everybody else think I'm crazy, my kids won't. We just learning about our atmosphere around us. So my kids help me look into it. All right, y'all. That's enough foolishness for one morning. Okay, let's go ahead and read this. Call for wholehearted commitment, which is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, y'all. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hold on. Shalom, Auntie. Shalom, shalom. Okay, a call for wholehearted commitment. Look, I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. When I be reading this now, I'm just like, my sister, like, she said, look, I'm waiting for the day when you're gonna chuck the whole thing and start reading another book. I was like, look, once I get my mindset on doing something, I like to be consistent and I like to be diligent with it. But I have also been known that if I find out some new information and we're doing something wrong, we're going to do all we can to adjust. I ain't trying to lead nobody astray. And if we're doing something off, we're going to adjust it the best way we can, right? If there's a more accurate rendering of scripture or whatever you want to call it that's available in English that I can read, we at least gonna give it a gander. We at least gonna give it a gander, you know. So I'm just saying, I figured that's what growth is all about, right? I don't want to keep doing something wrong and now I find out it's wrong. Like I said, we're still looking into all this because the whole Mars and other planets and stuff is coming up. But I thought about it, it would kind of make a little more sense. A what you call it? It sounds stupid to me coming out of my own mouth. Like a planetary war. Everything that they got written in scripture. Let's see, hold on. Devon said the same thing. Next time I'm going to say. Oh. Devon, funny. Yeah, I know what you meant. Dana said, Devon said the same thing. Next Pam gonna say throughout the Torah, laughing out loud. Yo, I'm just like, I ain't look. I clearly we know that there's truth found in there because there's testable things. I'm all for keeping the testable things that we can prove. The shenanigans we got to cut down, right? I'm just like, because I don't want to be passing along the shenanigans. I really only want to pass truth to my children. I'll let them know about the shenanigans and how it evolved, where we came from. This is why, but I don't want to keep on in the shenanigans when I know there's shenanigans. Then I would be guilty of what I get on some pastors about that they do. I just don't want to find myself in that place, right? But I had to bring y'all in on some of this because I want to make sure I ain't getting off. Make sure I ain't getting off on some of the people that I look and see getting off. And now you let me not even say it. Because right now, everything is questionable to me. Okay. So I need y'all help. I really need y'all help here, especially on this one. So we're gonna read this call for wholehearted commitment. One thing that I know that there is a creator. I'm here, we're here, right? We've interacted with the other realm. Great energy, sometimes not so great energy. So we know that there's what we deem to be good and evil or holy and unholy in another realm, even though scripture says that both Yah said, I create good and I create evil. I believe that everything comes out of you, but we're really still trying to figure out exactly what is going on here. Where are we at? What are we doing? Right? There's another realm that's interacting with us. We really need to know more about this. And if the guy that we have has been screwed with, and we know what's been screwed with, we need to unscrew it and put it back the way that it should be to help us really understand what's really going on around us, right? Because some people's prophecies, we can't trust you. We can't trust you. Uncle JB, beautiful rising, beautiful rising. Okay, y'all, let me do this. Do this call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations. Y'all, if y'all read through this, this is gonna be hard for me. Okay, listen. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that you. I'm gonna just read this like it is, okay? Because now I know that there's a mixing of different gods through this stuff. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna read this just like it says, because now, like I said, like I know there is a from the Sumerian text, there is actually mixing of gods even through the Old Testament. But what they did with the Torah, they went through and they the Hebrew scholars went through and purposely uniformed everything to one single God, right? So now I need to step back and undo what I did to make sure I can see the difference so I can realize who is who, right? Because let me just read it like it is. I'll share a little bit more with y'all on that. If y'all listen to the Lost Book of Enki, you will see what I'm saying. And it's gonna, when you start going back looking at scriptures, like, oh, well, now that makes better sense if you look at it like that. So that's why I'm at this point. So that's why I was like, this is gonna be hard because now I gotta go through based on what I read and I gotta line up, okay, yeah, here's the separation. This is definitely another person talking. Clearly, I knew that before. There were some things that I knew. I was like, Yah definitely didn't say that. The tone, remember y'all hear me talking about the tone changes. That's not like I can, if you read it enough, you can tell, even though they put it they said he said, and they said, thus saith the Lord, or whatever, the whole tone of the flow of that changes from how it was originally flowing. So I can tell that much, and that much I knew before I even heard of the Sumerian text. So I know something is awry still. Okay, so a call for wholehearted commitment. Deuteronomy chapter 6. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. The Lord your God will soon bring you into the land he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget the Lord who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear the Lord your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for the Lord your God who lives among you is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test the Lord your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of the Lord your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as the Lord said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that the Lord our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. The Lord did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And the Lord our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands the Lord our God has given us. Let me tell y'all something I'm really struggling with at this moment because of something I read. Okay, so I learned a little bit more about Marduk. Now we hear about Marduk in the Holy Bible, right? We hear about him even in the Old Testament, Torah, right? One of the kings, right? I forget exactly whose son he was, but Marduk was actually from what I'm understanding from the ancient Sumerian text, he was a demigod. Matter of fact, most of the kings reigning until the later days, like the pharaohs, those were the offspring. Well, they were demigods, right? They were the offspring of the see scripture. For what I'm saying, that it's like it kind of twisted up a little bit. They're the from what I understand from the Sumerian text, right, especially the kings of Sumer and some of the other different ones, they were actually half God, half man, so to speak, right? They had a earth mother and they had an angel father, right? And so when you think about that, it's like, okay, well, the Nephilim, right? The giants. But after the flood, they were all wiped out. They absolutely were not, right? They absolutely were not. They were still there. Clearly, we can still tell from some of the other texts, even in Jasher and everything. And I'm looking at, I'm like, okay, well, that would make sense. Remember, I mentioned the other day about the Pharaoh after Egypt was completely destroyed through the plagues, how it was destroyed, how he was transported and put over into Nineveh. I'm like, well, how could he live that long? Because this happened during their time. I was like, well, maybe the time period wasn't that far apart. So that before I had even heard about the Sumerian text, that's what I was just kind of likening it to. I was like, but man, okay, so they was probably still living just a little bit longer. But that one, that was something that was sticking out. I'm like, okay, so if this is the same Pharaoh from Egypt, maybe I don't know, maybe he tapped into the source of life or something, because that would make him a little bit older than natural lifespan, and lifespan had already begun to be cut down some. So it's like little things like that. But that was like one of the main things I'm trying to like reconcile in my mind. So I'm like, okay, but if we look at them from the context of, okay, well, they were demigods, then I'm like, okay, so I can see how you would live a little bit longer than the average human at that time. So apparently, mostly all of the kings, right? Even here in Deuteronomy chapter 6, not to worship the gods of the neighboring nations, not that, oh, we just worship random gods. You come here, this is what we like to do. Like their king was actually a demigod, right? They actually there were even some of, well, the kings who weren't demigods were worshiping the gods, but there were like in a church you would hear like there are powers and principalities over different nations. That's kind of how it was. So they had, as they was like dividing up the earth amongst themselves, there were different offspring who had to rule and reign over certain places over the earth, right? So I'm like, oh, well, that make a whole lot more sense now. So y'all don't think I'm tripping. I'm really just trying to work all this out, trying to process all this information in my head. Sometimes I got to just like say it out my mouth, and sometimes it sounds stupid coming out of my mouth. So I'm like, maybe I just need to say, maybe I need to look at it in another way. But my sister's good for it. She's like, yeah, no, Pam, no, think about what you just said. I was like, okay, but we just need to walk through every angle of this. I was like, okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay, let's look into this. Okay, yeah, we can go ahead and chuck this to the side now, right? But I just gotta say it out loud just to make sure I'm looking at it and understanding it, make sure my processing is right, right? Okay, so okay. Joseph's dreams, Genesis chapter 37. So Jacob, Joseph's dreams. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked he worked for his half brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things that his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dream meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had gone for some time, when they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, your brothers are pasturing are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to them. I'm ready to go, Joseph replied. Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along, Jacob said. Then come back and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. What are you looking for? He asked. I'm looking for my brothers, Joseph replied. Do you know where they're pasturing their sheep? Yes, the man told him. They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and found them there. Joseph sold into slavery. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into the empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying a hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty, there was no water in it. Then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming toward them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and Aramaic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. And the traders took him to Egypt. Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, the boy is gone. What will I do now? Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message. Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son? Their father recognized it immediately. Yes, he said, it's my son's robe. An animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. I will go to my grave, mourning for my son, he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. So if you're familiar with this story and you've read the legends of the Jews, and some of the things in the legends of the Jews makes a little more sense as well, because there were some things in there. Remember, we was reading through it. I'm like, what the crap? Remember me saying that? I was like, yeah, we just gonna sit this over here because I don't know. It was like some super crazy supernatural stuff that was happening in there. And I'm just like, huh. I'm trying to compare it to what I know humans to be now. And it's like, okay, I wasn't there. I can't say whether it's true or not, but we're gonna go with it for the time being until we get more information. I remember me saying about a lot of the different parts, especially at the very beginning of it, right? Because remember, it started getting to the part about Lilith. It talked about Lilith. Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Because it gave the deeper story, the details about what happened when Joseph was with Potiphar's wife, right? But before it even got to that part, this skips out, excuse me, on a whole lot of stuff that happened to Joseph on the road. He was actually sold twice. They sold him to the Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites sold him to the Egyptians. But on the way, because Joseph was weeping so much and they was trying to tell him who he belonged to and that he wasn't a slave, he was trying to tell him, I'm not a slave. And they would beat Joseph on the way there. But then angelic activity started happening. that's why they sold him, because they were afraid, because every time they hit him, something happened to them like immediately, that they couldn't see, like, what was that, like, who playing, so it's like, we got to get rid of this boy. You might not be a slave, but I don't know, you bringing us bad juju, so they sold him to the Egyptians, so if you weren't here when we read that, I forget what it was titled. But if you go back, if you want to watch my video when I read it, if you look at the titles, you can kind of get close to it. I don't think I specifically called it out, but based on the stories we read and some of the names I use, will tell you in the vicinity, and just kind of go back a few videos. Or you can just, matter of fact, I'll put the link for it, so you can just read it from sacred text. Hold on. Joseph sold shenanigans. Okay. Two things: the Van Allen radiation belt and Joseph being sold, so you can see some of the stuff that was left out. Okay. Y'all, what's crazy? And I know I mentioned it. I'm going through another translation of a different text. It's a whole bunch of them. So I'm going through them. I'm just trying to take them all in and just trying to put the pieces together that I can. And there's one, Uncle JB, the wars between gods and men. I'm getting to that one next, right? Because I kind of listened to it just a little bit. I was like, oh, this is good. Let me not cut in. Let me finish. Because I wish I could listen to everything at the same time and beam all the information into me at the same time, so I could just, boom, know what happened. But it's taking me time to go through all of them. So, but I'm listening to that one next. But there are some that I'm listening to from the one that was translated from the title of this one is like in the end of days. I'm like, man, clearly they didn't get there. They didn't put this in Revelations. Clearly, I didn't. I'm like, man, if people knew. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm sitting here shaking my head, listening to this. I'm like, you know what? If the church people knew this, if they just knew that all of this was taken from another text, just read the text that it was copied from, it will bring so much light to some things. And some of the false hopes and dreams and things that they got going on, they can kind of adjust it to maybe truth. Maybe we'll see. But some people, they so locked into the indoctrination. It's like, that's heresy, get away from here. And they've also been taught you don't need nothing else but the Bible. That's all you need. This is all you need. That's what keeps you locked into ignorance. Oh my gosh. And so people refuse to look at anything else. They refuse to look at anything else, because if they look at something else, it's going to shake their foundation. But I'm a firm believer, if it can be shaken, it should be shaken. And if I can help shake the foundation, I'm going to shake your foundation to its core. At least the part that I'm holding on to and can shake, because everything that can be shaken should be shaken, because your foundation should be solid. We shaking away all the looseness. Let's make sure we got some. We can keep this part. Make sure it's firm ground we can walk on. Everything shaky, it got to go, right? Okay. Yeah, you remember the video talking about Lilith and Adam's first wife? Yo, that video, if you ain't seen it, y'all gotta go back. That video was hilarious. I laughed at myself so hard. I went back and watched that video. Oh, I was making all kinds of jokes about Adam and Lilith. First time I heard about Lilith was in high school. I was like, what is y'all talking about? You hear stuff, but you don't begin to put it together until you get a little bit older. I'm like, what are you reading from? What did you find? That's not in the Bible. Oh, yeah, it's not in the Bible. They didn't put it in there, but she existed. They got whole spells with Lilith's name and stuff. I even looked at some of that stuff. I was like, oh, Lilith ain't no joke. I ain't fooling around with Lilith. I don't even know how y'all can do magic spells conjuring her up. Right, people, there are actual magic spells where they conjure up the power of Lilith. Now, I listened to it just so I could know what they was doing. But I'm like, oh, you's a bad mama jamma. I ain't calling you up for nothing. Because apparently with Lilith, y'all gotta see some of the stuff I got. Apparently with Lilith, she one of them unseen entities that requires a sacrifice. Y'all know how y'all be watching movies and superstars and stuff. You be like, you wonder how they got to that position. They didn't get what family member they didn't gave up to be sacrificed to get where they are. Like, people be doing that for real, my G. And Lilith requires a sacrifice, right? And it's like one of them, from what I understand, if I understand it correctly, from what I was reading, and I'll listen to it on the book, but I have to skip through the conjurations because I don't want to actually hear the conjurations. I listen to like a little bit of it, but once it started getting into it, I was like, yeah, see right there, I hold on to my church teaching. I ain't speaking curses down into my soul. So, but it's there. I'm like, I listen to like the beginning. I skip what you said. That's gross. What? Nope. We ain't fooling around with Lilith. I was joking around with my sister Alicia about Lilith. I was like, girl, go listen to this book. I said, don't listen to the conjuration spells, but just listen to it. And then think about some of the stuff we done seen in church. And I done seen them, whether they knowingly or unknowingly, they're doing some of the things that I read about Lilith, even in the, especially the Catholic Church. Especially the Catholic Church. Y'all. They're actually spells and amulets that they create for newborn babies so they're not taken by Lilith, or killed in their first few days of life by Lilith. Like all of this, I'm like, yo, I thought people was like lying about this, but people, they really make a life behind this. I'm like, this is crazy. And what's even more crazy, it seemed like there's actual power and stuff flowing behind when you do this stuff. I'm like, yo, y'all, we have really been asleep out here. Okay. I done did so much talking, y'all. We almost at a darn hour. I ain't even done reading this. Judah and Tamar. What we supposed to? Oh, we got another whole chapter to read. Let me finish this. Chapter 12 is really short in my big toe, so we can probably just read one today. Let me put all my sidebars. Okay. Genesis 38, Judah and Tamar. About this time, Judah left home and moved to Adullam, where he stayed with a man named Hira. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her. When he slept with her, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and he named the boy Then she became pregnant again and gave birth to another son, and she named him Onan. And when she gave birth to a third son, she named him Shelah. At the time of Shelah's birth, they were living at Kezib. In the course of time, Judah arranged for his firstborn son, to marry a young woman named Tamar, but was a wicked man in the Lord's sight, so the Lord took his life. Then Judah said to Er's brother Onan, go and marry Tamar, as our law requires of the brother of a man who has died. You must produce an heir for your brother. But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he spilled the semen on the ground. This prevented her from having a child who would belong to his brother. But the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child to his dead brother. So the Lord took Onan's life too. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Go back to your parents' home and remain go back to your parents' home and remain a widow until my son Shelah is old enough to marry you. But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid Shelah would also die like his two brothers. So Tamar went back to live in her father's home. Some years later, Judah's wife died. After the time of mourning was over, Judah and his friend Hira, the Adullamite, went up to Timnah to supervise the shearing of his sheep. Someone told Tamar, Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. Tamar was aware that Shelah had grown up, but no arrangements had been made for her to come and marry him. So she changed out of her widow's clothing and covered herself with a veil to disguise herself. Then she sat beside the road at the entrance of the village of Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute. Since she had covered her face, Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute since she had covered her face. So he stopped and propositioned her. Let me have sex with you, he said, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. How much will you pay to have sex with me? Tamar asked. I'll send you a young goat from my flock, Judah promised. But what will you give me to guarantee that you will send the goat? She asked. What kind of guarantee do you want? He replied. She answered, Leave me your identification seal and its cord and the walking stick you are carrying. So Judah gave them to her. He must have wanted some booty real bad. Then he had intercourse with her. She became pregnant. Afterward, she went back home. took off her veil, and put on her widow's clothing as usual. Later, Judah asked his friend Hira, the Adulamite, to take the young goat to the woman and pick up the things he had given her as his guarantee, but Hira couldn't find her. So he asked the men who lived there, "Where can I find a shrine prostitute who was sitting beside the road to the entrance of Enaim?" "We never had a shrine prostitute here," they said. So Hira returned to Judah and told him, "I couldn't find her anywhere, and the men of the village claim they've never had a shrine prostitute there." "Then let her keep the things I gave her," Judah said. "I sent the young goat as we agreed, but you couldn't find her. We'd be the laughing stock of the village if we went back again to look for her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now, because of this, she's pregnant. Bring her out and let her be burned," Judah demanded. Oh, the what I want to say, the I'm lost for the word. Oh, the unevenness of thought towards the women. You can go sleep with a prostitute, but if the women get pregnant, now she got to die, but you don't die for sleeping with the prostitute. I mean, and you go back to pay the shrine. You had your boy going back looking for the shrine. You asking other people about the shrine prostitute that you had sex with, my G. Like, you don't. "Bring her out and let her be burned," Judah demanded. But as they were taking her out to kill her, she sent this message to her father in law: "The man who owns these things made me pregnant. Look closely. Whose seal and cord and walking stick are these?" Judah recognized them immediately and said, "She is more righteous than I am, because I didn't arrange for her to marry my son Shelah." And Judah never slept with Tamar again. When the time came for Tamar to give birth, it was discovered that she was carrying twins. While she was in labor, one of the babies reached out his hand. The midwife grabbed it and tied a scarlet string around the child's wrist, announcing, "This one came out first." Then he pulled his hand back in, and out came his brother. "What?" the midwife exclaimed. "How did you break out first?" So his name was Perez. Then the baby with the scarlet string on his wrist was born, and he was named Zerah. Now, how many people ever asked the question, at least the women who have actually given birth, and maybe some of the men that have been present watching their wives, how is this even possible? Like, some of these things that are now, I'm looking at, it's like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Because that can't happen. His wrist come out first. How was that even possible, my G? Like, so I got questions about a lot of stuff now. I questioned a lot of stuff, but now even the smaller things I'm questioning. You reach your hand out and then you pull it back in. Right. See, because first of all, if one baby is already in the canal and you coming down, right? If your hand come out, we're not gonna say it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, right? But for you to stick your hand out would mean that you already deep down in my vaginal canal, my G. One of you can come through at a time. Let's say you like this, baby, like this. Okay, Superman, you coming out Superman style. Okay, but you pull your hand back in. Okay, you still kind of tiny and small. You could possibly get it back in, right? But then what y'all do? Y'all switch positions. You backtrack up out of my vaginal canal that you already deep down in, my G. If the body is working how it works, what kind of vagina did your mama have? That you was able to completely come all the way out of there and switch positions with your twin brother? I just, I'm just saying, anybody had those questions? Genesis 39. And for a woman who has given birth to 6 children, 5 boys, none of them been twins. So I can't really say that this can or can't happen. Anybody here had twins or know somebody that had twins that was able to do the switcheroo in halfway coming out the vaginal canal? I just, I got questions about everything now. Genesis 39. Joseph in Potiphar's house. When Joseph was taken, this reading has taken way too long today. It really has. Joseph in Potiphar's house. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, So he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in from the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All of his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and very well built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. But Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, come on, sleep with me. Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. When she saw that he was holding his cloak, when she saw that she was holding his cloak and he had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all the men came running. Look, she said, my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When the man heard me, when he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind with me. She kept the cloak until her husband came home. Then she told him her story. That Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me, she said. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me. Joseph put into prison. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in prison and showed him his faithful love, and the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. And that is our reading for today. So when I share this link to you, share this link with you from sacred text, is also going to get into the details, like Trina mentioned, of Potiphar's wife and the extremes she went to get into this man pants. Like, seriously, she invited her girls over. Look, come, I ain't tripping, y'all. Come look at how beautiful this man is, right? They were so enthralled with his beauty. They were sitting, my girls sitting talk. We got a wine board and some grapes and cheese and stuff, and they cutting the cheese, and he came in. Look, I'm gonna call him in. Just watch. He was so beautiful that they couldn't take their eyes off of him. And while they was supposed to been cutting whatever it was they was cutting, while they was sitting there having their little girls' night out or girls' night in, we'll see if we can run a train on Joseph. They end up cutting themselves because they were so mesmerized with Joseph's beauty that they end up cutting themselves instead of cutting the food they were supposed to have been sitting there eating. It was crazy. But you're gonna see that if you keep reading, if you read through that whole thing, you'll get all the details from that. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to my big toe, my big theory of everything. And we at 1 hour and 3 minutes. We're just gonna read 12. The end of an era. Oh, do we know it? And it's like a page and a half. Let me see. Once upon a time, long, long ago. Yeah, I'll just read this one. I'll read this one, and then we'll pick it back up. Hopefully, the reading tomorrow. Hold on, we got how many chapters we got? It's 49 chapters in Genesis. So in a few days, we'll be done. It's 49 chapters. Was it 50? It's 52. I forgot. But anyway, we'll be done in a few days. Then we're gonna bring in the ancient Sumerian text so y'all can see if y'all ain't got through it already. If you listen to it, go ahead and listen to it. That way, at least you'll be familiar with it. Because some stuff you may have to go listen to it twice, make sure you understood what was being said, right? So if you got it, I gave everybody. I'll post it again. Go through, run through, listen to it. You can download the book or you can listen to the girl on YouTube, read it. But remember, like I said, she didn't read the synopsis of every chapter. So those portions of the translated text are, well, the synopsis is a synopsis of what was translated. You don't necessarily have to have it, but it's there. I thought it was helpful. So we're going to read it from the original translator with the synopsis. But yeah. My Big Toe, chapter 12, The End of an Era. And this is page 95. Back at the lab during the middle to late 70s, running the seminars dominated everything. We were overwhelmed with demand. People from all over were clamoring to experience Bob Monroe's tapes, and all from word of mouth. Remember, they're testing out of body experiences and seeing, okay, is this just a hoax, or can this be replicated? Can anybody do this? And they found out at this time we're reading now, they found out that binaural beats help to put you in that state where you could it'll put you in that state a lot faster, calming the body down. So they worked out the science of that, where they understood the science of all that, and they began to use it. So this is where they're at, and talking about the Bob Monroe tapes. Okay. We were overwhelmed with demand. People from all over were clamoring to experience Bob Monroe's tapes, and all from word of mouth. Bob saw an economic opportunity on the horizon. He was a businessman, and this business, supporting the lab facility, had been a constant financial drain. Perhaps, he thought, he could get two birds with one stone. He eventually succeeded, but basic research was the first casualty for a few years. Eventually, he was able to add the basic research back at a much greater level than it had been before, as well as provide a life changing and enriching experience for thousands of people. But all that took time. And the era of Bob, Dennis, and Tom working until the wee hours of the morning, trying to make science out of the strangeness they discovered, was gone. Its time was rightfully over. Fate had been extraordinarily kind, and we ended on a long, sweet, high note. We were each ready to broaden the scope of our efforts in our own way. It was time for us to soar, coast, or crash on our own. In the end, Bob Bob was proved right as usual. He captained his ship flawlessly from the initial tentative launch through the tricky undercurrents of closed minded rejection by the larger society, while at the same time skillfully avoiding the shallows of easy, safe, generally accepted answers. With Bob at the helm, high standards of proof drove off pirate charlatans who wanted to co-opt his success and commandeer his hard-won credibility. Through dedication to honest science, personal integrity, and intuitive knowing that was steady and reliable, Bob optimized his gifts for the greater good. I do not wish to leave the impression that Bob, Dennis, and I were the only explorers at Whistlefield Research Laboratories during the early 70s. There were others as well who made important contributions to Monroe's overall effort. A few became regulars, making extended connections of various durations, while others were merely passing through, trading knowledge, like bees pollinating wildflowers. Nancy Lee had joined the research effort with Dennis and me after her graduation from college, and soon became an integral part of the team, collecting evidence, testing concepts, participating in singular as well as joint explorations, even soldering wires. My biometric identification. You have to do this. You didn't try to do it yourself. It didn't recognize your thumbprint, girl. Okay. Okay. A few became regulars, making extended connections of various durations, while others were merely passing through, trading knowledge, like bees pollinating wildflowers. Nancy Lee had joined the research effort with Dennis and me after her graduation from college, and soon became an integral part of the team, collecting evidence, testing concepts, participating in singular as well as joint explorations, even soldering wires on occasion. She began to carry more and more of the workload as Dennis and I reached and passed our limits of available time. Eventually, Dennis and I needed to go home to our families. Nancy Lee took over the seminar operations, and after a few years of successfully building and managing the business, she became the director of the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences. The truer picture is that the overall effort at Whistlefield was a joint one. It was a busy place with a lot going on and many talented, interesting, and dedicated players. The end of any era must necessarily share time's stage with the beginning of a new era. With the demands of the activities at Whistlefield winding down, I had more time to integrate and assimilate the continual whirlwind of extraordinary experiences that I had encountered. The nature of reality, a big picture that brought coherency to the wealth of collected data, began to take form in my mind. Any model or theory had to consistently account for and accurately contain the entirety of my experience, the roots of which ran deeper than I had previously imagined. And that, my beautiful people, is where we'll stop today, right? And I feel like what we just read, I really feel like we're at the end of an era, starting a new era, especially with all the information that we're bringing together. Like, the information has been here. We're just learning about some stuff, right? So I'm just like, we all gonna grow together. I ain't gonna be one of the people. Look, here's what I think. Boom, boom, boom. This is where we're gonna go. You gonna listen to me or you not? No, I need y'all help. Make sure I ain't going nuts. Look, check into this. Go look at this. Somebody, please go check into this and come back and let me know what y'all find, right? Okay. So we can all grow together. We can kind of hold each other accountable here. You know, if y'all see me getting off or y'all think I'm getting off, please ask me questions. Please ask me questions because I'm questioning myself. And I call my sister. Hey, sister, help a sister out. What do you think about this? Go read this and tell me what you think. I ain't even going to give you anything. I want you to just read it and I want you to tell me your thoughts on it because I don't want to input anything into your head. So, and she kind of helps balance me out on some things that I don't necessarily take to my mama right away. She here. I can sound crazy with my sister and just like, look, I got to get it out. Let me just say it and just let me just organize my thoughts and stuff. Okay. This. She's like, wait, what you say, girl? That's that. Now that sound crazy. You know, I thought so too, but I wanted to get a second opinion on it just to make sure I ain't tripping. Okay, so let's look at why this is foolish right now. Okay. Okay. So with that being said, beautiful people, that's it for today, right? I'm gonna share this stuff with y'all. Y'all ain't listen to it. We got a couple days. Let me see exactly how many days before we'll before we'll start reading this. I'll let y'all know. Hold on. Let me look. Let me double check my chapters in Genesis. Hold on. I'll let y'all know exactly. Excuse me. Where's the overall thing? Let's see. 40. No. Let's do this. Okay, it's 50 chapters in Genesis. So we just read, okay, we at 40. So 40, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So tomorrow, hold on, let me write it out. Well, I've been trying to do this in my head. Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna do 40 through 42. Then we're gonna do 43 through 45. Then 46 through 48. Then Saturday is the last two chapters, 49 and 50. So possibly Saturday, we could get in a little bit of the Sumerian text because it's like the last two chapters in Genesis. So Saturday is going to be Genesis 49 and 50. And if I don't add in stories and stuff, we on the countdown. So I ain't going to say nothing extra about Genesis 49 and 50. what I know, I'll share the links where you can go pick it up. But I think because it's Saturday too, it's Saturday, we can start reading some of it. At least get into the introduction of the translated ancient Sumerian text. Okay, so we good. So now we got a date where we're gonna start reading it. So be ready for it. And it's a Saturday, so we probably go a little bit longer on Saturday. And we're gonna probably have to keep our probably the chapter that we read for My Big Toe. I'll probably have to keep it to one chapter too. Do I want to read My Big Toe first before I? Here's what we'll do. Okay, so Saturday we'll read 49 and 50, and then we'll read a chapter or two from My Big Toe, and then we'll get into the ancient Sumerian text, just in case. I mean, because it's gonna be Saturday, and if y'all want me to go on just a little bit longer, just read a little bit more, we'll have that time, and we'll already be had the preliminaries out of the way. Okay, so I think that's what we're gonna do Saturday. Okay, so Saturday, towards the end of the video, is where we're gonna start getting into some of the ancient Sumerian text. So if you ain't there for nothing else, come back for that. Come back for that, especially if you ain't listened to it already. So with that being said, beautiful people, let's go ahead and do this blessing. The blessing is found in Bella upstairs. I ain't gonna holler for it because we already over time. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That's it for today. Linda, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. That's it. I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Thanks, Robert. Y'all, some reading. Okay, y'all. See you tomorrow. Bye.